We all know Hitler and Stalin, but history has hidden a group of monsters who were actually worse. One turned his country into a silent prison, where wearing glasses was a death sentence. Another ate the hearts of his enemies to gain their power. You have never heard their names, but after this, you will never forget them. These dictators looked normal. They smiled for cameras. They gave speeches about peace and progress, but behind closed doors, they committed some of the most horrific crimes in human history. Today I'm exposing 5 monsters who history forgot, the killers who hid in plain sight. Francisco Macías Nguema, the man who banned intelligence. In 1968, Equatorial Guinea gained independence from Spain. The world celebrated. A new nation was born, and Francisco Macías Nguema became its first president. He seemed like a hero, a freedom fighter, a man of the people. Within months, he became a monster. Macías banned the word intellectual. If you were educated, you were a threat. If you wore glasses, you looked smart. And that meant death. Teachers were executed. Doctors fled the country. Anyone who could read was hunted down. Macías closed all the schools. He burned the National Library. Education, he declared, was a Western conspiracy to control Africa. But his paranoia went deeper. He banned fishing boats. Why? Because he feared people would escape by sea. He banned the word intellectual in all official documents. He even banned saying his original name. Anyone who called him by his birth name was tortured. On Christmas Eve 1975, Macías staged a massacre. He had 150 political prisoners executed in a stadium while a band played Those Were the Days. My friend on maximum volume to drown out the screams. Soldiers dressed as Santa Claus carried out the killings. Macías killed an estimated 50,000 people, about 1/3 of the country's population. He destroyed Equatorial Guinea's economy, infrastructure, and future. In 1979, his own nephew overthrew him. Macías was tried and executed by firing squad. The man who banned intelligence died in ignorance, but his crimes left scars that Equatorial Guinea still carries today. While Macías killed anyone who was smart, our next tyrant killed anyone who wasn't obsessed with him. Rafael Trujillo, the man who renamed reality. Rafael Trujillo ruled the Dominican Republic for 31 years, and in that time, he turned the entire country into a shrine to himself. He renamed the capital city Ciudad Trujillo, Trujillo City. The country's highest mountain, Pico Trujillo. The main province, Trujillo Province. Newspapers were required to print his photo on the front page every single day. Churches hung portraits of Trujillo next to images of Jesus Christ. School children recited prayers thanking God and Trujillo, in that order. But Trujillo's obsession with control went far beyond ego. In 1937, he ordered the massacre of Haitians living along the border. Soldiers went village to village, identifying Haitians by making them pronounce the Spanish word perejil, parsley. If you couldn't roll the R, you died. Between 15,000 and 20,000 Haitians were slaughtered in just 5 days. The river that separated the two countries ran red with blood. Trujillo called it cleaning the border. He also kept a network of spies so vast that citizens feared even their own families. Anyone who criticized Trujillo vanished. Their homes were seized. Their families were blacklisted. Trujillo himself lived like a king. He owned 1,800 cars. He had personal control over 60% of the country's economy. He forced businesses to buy products from companies he owned. In 1961, Trujillo was assassinated in an ambush. His car was riddled with bullets. His era of terror ended in the same violence he had created. The man who renamed his country after himself couldn't rename death. These forgotten monsters ruled through fear and control. If you want to uncover more shocking history like this, subscribe to Tyrant Tales. Hit that subscribe button now. While Trujillo built monuments to himself, our next dictator built a reputation on something far darker, eating his enemies. Idi Amin, the cannibal king. Idi Amin took power in Uganda in 1971 through a military coup. At first, he seemed charming. He was a former boxer, a larger-than-life personality. The world thought he was eccentric but harmless. They were very wrong. Amin killed between 100,000 and 500,000 people during his 8-year rule. But what made him truly terrifying were the rumors of what he did to the bodies. Multiple witnesses, including his own ministers, claimed Amin practiced cannibalism. He allegedly stored dismembered bodies in his personal refrigerator. His former health minister, Henry Kayemba, wrote that Amin kept severed heads in his freezer. Amin never denied the rumors. In fact, he seemed to enjoy them. He once joked to a British reporter that human flesh was too salty. Whether the cannibalism was real or psychological warfare, the fear was absolute. Amin's victims didn't just fear death, they feared what would happen to their bodies after. Amin also expelled 60,000 Asians from Uganda, claiming God told him to do it in a dream. He gave them 90 days to leave. Most had lived in Uganda for generations. Their businesses, homes, and savings were seized. Amin declared himself conqueror of the British Empire. He gave himself the full title, His Excellency, President for Life. Field Marshal Al-Haji Dr. Idi Amin Dada. In 1979, Tanzanian forces and Ugandan rebels overthrew him. Amin fled to Saudi Arabia, where he lived in luxury until his death in 2003. He died peacefully. His victims did not. While Amin fed on fear, our next dictator built a country that lived in bunkers, hiding from enemies that didn't exist. Enver Hoxha, the paranoid builder. Enver Hoxha ruled Albania from 1944 to 1985, and during that time, he turned Albania into the most isolated country on earth. Hoxha was paranoid. He believed the entire world was plotting against Albania, so he built 170,000 bunkers, enough for every family to have one. These weren't small shelters, they were massive concrete domes, reinforced with steel, designed to survive nuclear war. They dotted the countryside, the beaches, even city streets. The problem? The war Hoxha feared never came. Albania wasted billions on bunkers while its people starved. The country became so poor that families couldn't afford food, but Hoxha kept building. He also banned religion entirely. Albania became the world's first officially atheist state. Churches and mosques were destroyed or turned into warehouses. Priests and imams were executed or imprisoned. Hoxha purged anyone he suspected of disloyalty. He executed his closest allies, including former prime ministers and generals. Paranoia consumed him. By the end of his rule, he trusted no one. Travel was forbidden. Albanians couldn't leave the country. Western music, books, and films were banned. Owning a typewriter required government permission. Hoxha died in 1985 of natural causes, but Albania remained trapped in his paranoid vision until communism collapsed in 1991. Today, Albania is covered in abandoned bunkers, silent monuments to a dictator's irrational fear. The scars of Hoxha's rule remain visible across the entire country. While Hoxha feared the world outside, our final dictator feared the world of knowledge itself. Pol Pot, the teacher who killed teachers. Pol Pot was a school teacher, educated, intelligent, soft-spoken, and he orchestrated one of the worst genocides in human history. In 1975, Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge took control of Cambodia. They promised to create a perfect agrarian society, a return to simple farming life. Instead, they created hell. Pol Pot emptied the cities. Doctors, lawyers, engineers, teachers, anyone educated was executed. Wearing glasses meant you could read, and if you could read, you died. The Khmer Rouge killed intellectuals by the thousands. They destroyed schools, libraries, and hospitals. They turned Cambodia into a giant forced labor camp. Between 1975 and 1979, Pol Pot killed 1.7 to 2 million people, about 25% of Cambodia's population. Children were taken from parents and trained as soldiers. Families were separated. People were worked to death in rice fields. Food was rationed to starvation levels. The Khmer Rouge kept detailed records of their executions. At the Tuol Sleng prison, over 17,000 people were tortured and killed. Photos of victims, men, women, children, were catalogued with chilling precision. Pol Pot called this Year Zero, the rebirth of Cambodia, but it was the death of a nation. In 1979, Vietnam invaded Cambodia and overthrew the Khmer Rouge. Pol Pot fled into the jungle. He lived in hiding for nearly 2 decades. He died in 1998, never facing trial for his crimes. The teacher who hated knowledge escaped justice. But Cambodia still mourns. The killing fields remain. The scars are permanent. These 5 dictators killed millions, and most people have never heard their names. If you want more shocking history the world forgot, subscribe to Tyrant Tales and hit the bell icon.